Hey, how you doing everybody? It's Obley and today I wanted to speak about some more changes to DK. How sick is that? Yesterday, the PTR had a new build and there was a whole plethora of different changes that went live, but mainly a massive change to Breath of Sindragosa. A lot of people called out and said they didn't like the Empower spell, so they actually removed it. It's now gone. They've replaced it with a new spell. So Breath of Sindragosa calls upon Sindragosa's aid to deal damage, but now, instead of consuming runic power to keep itself alive, it actually does that via Killing Machine and Rhyme procs you can shoot. That's really good. I've done some testing on the PTR. The way that it is now, you send it with 60 runic power and then you just play the normal playstyle. It's just a send and forget. I've been saying this for ages that they did like a Bone Storm style, so you can just press it and go and keep playing the way you want to play. But this will do. This is basically the same. It lasts for about 30 seconds if you can just spam the shit out of Obliterate. People complaining at the moment that it's Obliterate spammy playstyle, but that's literally exactly how it was before. So, what the fuck? Then they changed a few talent positions, so things like Howling Blades and Murderous Efficiency, so now you don't have to pick Howling Blades. Because beforehand, it was very difficult to build something with Murderous Efficiency and not have Howling Blades in. So now, Murderous Efficiency, they've been swapped. Deathbringer is in a big buff. The actual damage from Reaper's Mark has been increased by 30%, and then Bind in Darkness now increases Howling Blast damage by 60% instead of 30%. That's pretty massive. And on the topic of hero talents, Riders to the Apocalypse have had the Mograin's Might that's been buffed slightly. So damage while you're in their Mograin's Might, not your own Death and Decay, but their Death and Decay, is increased by 5% and you gain 5% additional crit. Not too bad. In addition to that, there's been a couple of sort of bug fixes, and some of the things that they wanted to intend to happen with certain talents weren't happening before, and they've fixed that now. So there's things like an issue with Frostbane not activating Rhyme, and then Arctic Assault not actually activating off of Killing Machine, things like that. They're quite big. One of the things that they did fix was how if you consume 2 stacks of Killing Machine with your killing streak, it wouldn't give you 2 stacks of Bone Grinder. I think they did fix that before this patch, if I remember correctly, but they also updated the visual Frost Scythe. Still looks like shit. Okay, so that's pretty much all the Frost changes. I think the change to Breath is really nice. I've been playing it on the PTR and it feels decent when you get used to it, because as a veteran Frost DK, I have never once been in a position where I can press Breath of Sindragosa and also my Runic Power Spender abilities and not feel sorry for myself. So right now it's quite an interesting change to get used to, but it's good. It means I can actually play my game. I'm playing my rotation 30 seconds more than I would have been in last tier, because the rotation you play with Breath Up is just obliterate, 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 obliterate. The rotation you play now is the rotation that is intended you to play. So I think it's good. I think you kind of, the talent choices, you do get sort of like locked into a certain few, but I mean, I'm not going to share anything yet because tuning could happen. They could change anything. There's no real reason to start sharing builds because they probably won't go live. But for Frost, position is fine. But for Frost, I would say that there's no real need to change anything more. I think if they wanted to just give the spec a fresh feel, this is it. Leave it alone. Just do some damage tuning and just leave it there. One thing they didn't really touch up on in the new build is Frostbane. Now, right now, Shattering Blade is doing a lot of damage, especially single target. It absolutely rips. It almost doubles the damage of Frost Strike, which is nuts. And Frostbane just doesn't really see much use. I haven't really been able to see it gel very well with some testing. We have to do some more testing, really, I think. But yeah, it would have been nice to maybe receive a little bit of a buff on the single target element of Frostbane so that it doesn't just overtake everything else. Okay, so let's move on to the Unholy changes. Defile and Desecrate have been changed slightly. So now Defile doesn't reduce the cooldown of Death and Decay, aka Defile, but Desecrate does. Now Desecrate also had its damage buffed, except it still does absolutely nothing. It is abysmal damage. It's got to be bugged, because it does nowhere near the amount of damage that Defile would do. I think generally you would probably just be picking Defile because of the sheer amount of damage that it does. Desecrate now, with its 100% more damage instead of 150% of damage from Death and Decay, where that would influence you to just pop it straight away. Now you kind of want to sit in it, except you also don't, because it pops wounds and applies wounds. So if you don't have any, then you want to just pop it so that you can give yourself some and continue to cleave. It feels jank. It feels bad. Do some testing with it and trying to implement it into the kit. I don't know. For me, it feels cool. a bit shit. Essentially, you could see it as like an empower rune weapon-esque spell, where, oh my god, I have no wounds, I need to get some more wounds so I can continue to cleave nicely, let's just consume that death and decay and continue on as normal, except if you have one wound on the target, it will just consume them. So you might be at a state where you have very little wounds and you're thinking, I need to get myself ready so I can do some more cleaving. If you aren't able to cleave those wounds off before you then do a desecrate afterwards, that's just it. You're not going to really do much with it. You're just going to pop those wounds instead, which may as well just be your clawing shadows because it would have done a lot more damage. So this is super strange. I can see what they're trying to do, but it's not worked. And I forgot to mention there that, yeah, bursting swords damage has now got a cap. 7 targets. Don't know how to feel about that. That's quite shit. So now one of the only things that we were actually really, really good at has been nerfed. I mean, up to 8 targets was still very decent. Bursting swords damage was increased by 15% to compensate for the fact that bursting swords now damage up to 7 nearby targets instead of an infinite amount. I mean, yeah, it's a bit annoying. I hope they do change the tuning with Unholy, because right now it does feel like it feels very lackluster. I don't know whether or not you would pick this over Frost, really. Frost is just so good at the moment, plays so well. They would have to do some serious numbers tuning to make this worth it, considering all the changes. Oh, and don't forget, Death Grip being a raid buff has had its cooldown reduced to 15 seconds. Aren't we ever so useful? Alright, so there's a few more Unholy changes as well. Scourge Strike or Clawing Shadows. Crits now cause the Festering Wound to burst for 20% increased damage, so that's just them trying to bake in a little bit more crit damage into our kit, considering it's so bad and nothing really takes any value from it. You can tell that they really want us. I mean, it's good, they're listening. We complain about the fact that crit is fucking dog shit for us, so they give us certain talents which is trying to fix that, but they're not really doing the best job at doing it. It's still very poor, but at least they're trying. That also affects bursting swords damage. Pretty good, that's a big buff. Then Sudden Doom no longer reduces the runic power of Epidemic. They felt like because of that, then we were gaining a lot of resources per global and AoE situation. But I don't think that's quite true, because we're still getting a lot of resources anyway from popping so many wounds. So Epidemic essentially still would be kind of free. And then you have Grave Mastery increasing the crit damage of Gargoyle and Legion of Souls. Would that make a difference? No. And then Plague Mastery increasing the crit damage of Festering Wounds. So there's them trying to implement some more crit value to our kit. It's better than nothing. So what do I think about these changes then? So for Frost, I think it's such a good change. This breath change is amazing. It's something that I've wanted for so long. So to see it finally in the flesh is great. Whether or not this actually makes it live, I don't know. But I think this is a version of breath that everybody can just get on board with. It's not difficult to keep up at all. You just play a normal rotation. It is difficult to get used to, but once you're used to it, it is actually really good. And for Unholy, I can't really see this being a good thing. The change they've made last week, we were in a fine spot, not a great spot, but a fine spot. We just needed buffing a little bit. Now, this is strange. Yeah, now it feels a lot worse to play, in my opinion. I'm going to do some testing for the rest of the day and get more of an opinion, more of a feel for it, especially of Unholy. Very interested to check that out. But thank you very much, guys, for watching. Leave your thoughts on the changes below. I'd love to reply to all the comments and just have a bit of a chat with you guys. But remember to subscribe, like the video, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.